McGolf Tools of the Trade Tuesday. Today is shop setup. Let's talk. Welcome back to the McGolf shop and Tools of the Trade Tuesday. And we talked about getting some knowledge about what it is that we want to do. Now we need to be able to have a shop to do it in. And this could take a few episodes, but for this one is just basic setup, all right? We're going to start from the nuts and bolts of a shop, okay? Well, so one of the very first things you need in a shop is a bench, okay? A bench. Now, what kind of bench do you need? Well, what kind of bench can you get? You know, if you're just starting out, there are like Lowe's, Home Depots, Menards. They'll have a do-it-yourself, make a bench, and you're on your way. Some of you guys out there might be a bit more handier than that, and you can build it on your own with 2x4s and whatever. Some other guys will use, go tongue and groove and make them really fancy. Some other ones like mechanics benches that are solid, and they have the stainless steel tops, or like what I've got back in here, I've used countertop. All right, so it just depends on where it is you're going to be working, how much room you can afford to spend, and what do you plan on doing with it. If you're just getting started out and you have limited space, then one bench is pretty good. And take the time to make a good one, okay, because you don't want anything shaky. And a lot of times what will happen is people will mount the bench to a wall, okay? So you put it against a wall. And what I would suggest is, instead of 2x4s, 1x1x1 at the top, making a top of it, if you do that, at least put something solid over the top of it, like a piece of plywood, or maybe a countertop, or maybe a piece of stainless steel, whatever it is that you can get a hold of. Because you're going to be working with some small parts, ferrules, the screws for adjustable tips, the shims, and other little teeny weeny parts. And if your wood separates, it disappears and you're searching for it. Nobody likes that. But if it's solid, it just bounces and you just got to chase it around the top of the bench. So pick up what you like on the way of a bench. And you've seen what I've got here. I prefer countertop. I also prefer the actual counters. All right, they bring you up to a certain particular height, and then what I do is I've built it up just a hair higher from an ergonomic standpoint, and that allowed me to put ventilation in. And that will be yet another topic about this shop setup. All right, so benches. So you got to figure out what works for you. Now, the other part is, how much can you devote to your shop? Some people have a downstairs spot where they used to do all their housework, and that's just what they've got. Okay. Some people will go into a garage and devote part of a garage to it. Again, okay. And then you have what I have here behind me. So it just depends on what you have, and then that kind of limits you to what it is you can do, or what it is you can have set out, okay? What you're looking for here is efficiency, efficiency. So in reality, there's basically two shop setups, and we'll go off to the first one here in a second. Okay, the first one is the what I call the island setup. All right, island setup. All right. Now the island setup is just that. You've got yourself a room, and you put your workbench in the middle, and you have your tools in the middle, and you work around them, and then you have little spaces around the outside for which you can store other supplies, your clubs, whatever it is that you want to do. But that's the island setup. Island setup. All right, the second one is what I call the tour van setup, where you have a row on this side and you have a row on that side. And what this side is you have one side that's a dirty side, and you have one side that's a clean side. So you do your measuring, whatever it is you want to do there, and you do all your equipment building and all your tip abrading and all your cutting on the other side. So you can go against a wall, okay? Basically not island, but against a wall where you have an island down the middle. For me, that just works out more efficient, okay, because all my tools are laid out for that. That's second, all right? How are you going to lay out your tools based on where you have a door, where you have a window, where you have an electrical box, where you have outlets, where you have water, all right? Those things come into play, or even when you have your ventilation above you, okay? All those come into play on where you lay out your equipment, where you do that. So, as funny as it might sound, there used to be a program when you wanted to lay out a living room or your whole house, they give you this overhead view, and you gave them the size. This is the size of a sofa, this is the size of a refrigerator, this is the size of a stove, and it would lay out things and how you would want to do that. Now, me being primitive, what I did is I made little cutouts and I put them on graph paper, and I laid out how I would want to work. Now, especially that's difficult for me because I'm left-handed, so I had to lay out things kind of in a reverse order. Guys who are right-handed may not have that big of an issue. So when you are doing your shop layout, consider a bunch of things. One, your bench and your bench size, your room size, your utilities and where you're going to do it, and just exactly what you plan to start off doing. And if you do have that room for expansion, plan a little bit ahead for that room for expansion so that you can reuse some of your stuff, okay? The whole idea is about time, all right? It's about time, because if you spend a lot of time and you take your vise and that holds everything, and you're going to do grips, shaft removals, spine aligning, all these different things. Things go in the shaft, things go out of the shaft, things go above, things go up. Sometimes people actually put the vise up above it. So you really have to plan your time, okay? And then if you have your island concept, which tools are the most important for the jobs that I'm doing right now? And that gets you around in order to build a club, or to braid a tip, or to do your spine aligning, or to do lofts and lies, or to do customizing where you do stamping on wedges, or even painting for that matter. It's whatever you want to do, and you get them on those layouts, and then get comfortable with it. You know, this is the forework that makes everything go better. Okay, so shop layout. Now, the other thing you got to consider is storage. All right, when you start doing this, you got to have room for grips, you got to have room for some shafts, you got to have room for your heads if you're doing that sort of thing. Then you have your glue, your ferrule, your places where you're going to mix your epoxy, your paper towels, things for wiping things down. Where are you going to store your clubs when they are drying? Okay. Where are you going to put your other equipments if you have that limited amount of room? Will you put it on a shelf underneath the bench? Will you put it in a cabinet off to the side? Those are all things that have to be taken into account when doing your shop layout. Now, if you have any suggestions or if you have any questions, just put them in the show notes, and I'll be sure to answer them for you as far as layouts go. And what we'll do next time is, now that we've got our layout, what can we do to help protect our investment when we go to do that? So if you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe, and that way you know when the next one's coming out. And that way we can keep this growing. And don't be afraid to ask a question, because it could certainly become a topic of discussion in one of these volumes. So stay tuned, because the next time we talk, it won't be here, and I'll send you another video on why. So again, from the McGolf shop, let's see your scores. Go low.